Hi everyone, I'm Trisha Peach, host of the Peach Buzz, and usually we have a pretty lighthearted how-to episode. Today we have a bit heavier subject matter. How do you know when it's time to leave the ministry position that you're in? How do you know? That's a very tough question. Usually someone else can't answer that for you. What you'll get when you ask that from another pastor is, well, pray about it. Well, pray about it. And I agree, you need to be in constant prayer about it. But there are some other ways you can know. As a person who has made that transition to different ministry positions before, I've also hired ministry individuals before and seen them leave. I know some of the signs when things are coming to an end. And I'm sure this is not universally true, but this is what I've always seen. So here we go. The 7 major signs that it may be time to go, that your time of ministry there may be done. Number one, the absolute number one that I usually see is you don't care anymore. You don't care. Some people I've known, some pastors I've known said it's like, almost like a mantle or an anointing lifts, or the building itself looks different. I remember coming out of a meeting. I'd been at that church many, many years, and I walked out of that meeting and the whole building looked different, and I just knew, I'm done. I need to go. There were a lot of factors that led up to that, but it was just God was making clear to me, it's done. And what I mean by you don't care is a weekend goes horrible, weekend goes fantastic, you don't care. You're numb. Your whole self has shut down for that place because everything that you felt for that has died inside. Usually when somebody hits that point, I haven't seen them come back. Now you can comment in the comments below and tell a great story about that. I would love to hear it. But usually when someone tells me, I don't care. I don't care anymore. I don't care how the outreach goes. I don't care how Sunday goes. I don't care who gets upset anymore. I don't care. When they've gotten to that point, they're already gone. They just haven't announced it to the church yet. 2 would be you don't have any vision for that place anymore. This usually shows up if you're making your plan for the next year, or you are vision casting or doing your budget for the next year. And for me, I can usually sit down and do that 3-year budget, that 3-year strategy, vision, and get so excited about it, and it just starts to fall onto the page. When I was done and God was dealing with me about leaving, I'd be staring at an empty page. And I'm trying to think of something to put down because I no longer have any vision for that ministry. And God should be supplying the ministry. God, the Holy Spirit, should be supplying vision, and here's where you're going. And I'm not talking about, okay, I need direction from God, you wait on God and you get that direction. There were times where God was dealing with me to leave and I didn't want to listen. And I would wait on God and He wasn't giving me anything because I wasn't supposed to be there anymore. So I wasn't getting any direction and I had no ideas for the coming year. Kind of frustrating. 3, you have dreams of elsewhere. This is where you do have some vision, but it's not for where you're at. You're daydreaming most of the time about being somewhere else, being in a different place of ministry, maybe a different vocation. And I'm not talking, we've all had the dream sometimes of, I had to fill in for Francis Chan on the weekend and it went fantastic. No, I'm not talking about a once in a while daydream. I mean, you're daydreaming day in and day out about being anywhere but where you are. It's another sign that the dreams have died for where you're at, and your mind and your spirit have moved on. You just haven't had the courage to speak it out loud yet. So you're daydreaming day in and day out about some other ministry in some other place where you would rather be. That's a huge warning sign. Number 4, you have major health issues. This one might sound different because some people have health issues and it has nothing to do with them being done with the ministry where they're at. But I have noticed that sometimes people are ignoring health issues and the constant health issues. I mean, they're always sick. They're constantly, every time you see them, they're always sick. And it's the stress. It's stress. They're not sleeping. They're not taking care of themselves. It's the stress of being somewhere they're not supposed to be anymore. And the frustration of being where they're not supposed to be anymore. They're constantly ill. And it's a terrible way to live. It's an awful way to live. So you need to say, what is my body and mind trying to tell me here? Is this not where I'm supposed to be? Ask God about that. Number 5, different vision. Okay. I talked to a pastor just a week ago. He had this burning passion to do missions and to have a Spanish church in his church, and his church body met the board and they said, absolutely not. That's not anything we want to be a part of. Their vision was to minister to the people that were already there. And his vision was outreach and evangelism to people who weren't saved yet, especially cross-culturally. So those are 2 very different visions. They don't mesh. And he's vision casting, trying to get the whole church to change. And sometimes that does work. But he had been there for 3 years and vision casting. And after those 3 years, they're still saying, this is where we are, this is where we're going. And he made the choice, that's not what I'm called to. And he went somewhere else. And I would say he made the right choice, because it's difficult to get a whole church to change to match your calling. If you do, that's great. You have to remember you have a higher boss than the church that you're at. You have to fulfill the calling that God has put on your life. And if God has called you to evangelism or missions or cross-cultural, or if your key is worship that God has called you to, and your church has decided they're going to drastically scale back the worship portion of it, and it bothers you so much because now the vision does not line up with what God's called you to do, that could be a sign. If combined with some of these other things, you have to constantly ask yourself, what has God called me to do? We all want to be at a church for the rest of our lives. We all want to retire there, but very few of us will get to. I think it's less than 3% ever get to. If that's you, fantastic. But for most people, it's a season, and you hope it's a long season. And you don't want to leave stomping off like a 2-year-old, I'm going to take my toys because I didn't get what I want. But if your calling, let's say your calling is to preach, you are called to preach, and your church makes the decision they're going to do only video sermons that they bought online, which I saw a church do this, and they were shocked that their preaching pastors quit. I was not shocked. They're called to preach. We're watching videos now for the foreseeable future. This isn't going to work. So you have to say, what has God called me to do? And if I can't fulfill my calling here, God may be moving me on. This was great training ground. Now it's time to move on. I do not condone using a church as a stepping stone ever. You need to go in thinking, I'm going to be here for the long haul. But if things change and shift while you're there and the vision goes off in a different direction that you can't follow, and I've had that happen to me twice. Both churches I've been at a very long time, and the vision and direction of the church changed away from children's ministry to something else, where the children's ministry was going to be extremely limited. Well, that's not my calling at all. So I said, love you, bless you, I'm off to go do what God's called me to do. And I never did that without talking to them first extensively and explaining my reasons why. They were never surprised because I don't stomp off in 2 seconds. Another good sign that you need to go is you're always irritable and stressed. It's one thing to have a bad day. It's one thing to have a busy season. In ministry, you should have busy seasons. I was in, Church of 3000 for many, many years. I understand busy seasons and stress. But when you are constantly, never-ending, stressed out and irritable and angry with your spouse, with your children, with your staff, with the people around you, and everything irritates you, it's probably time to go. You shouldn't be constantly stressed and irritated. I would suggest first take your vacation time, take a sabbatical if you can. Here's the thing though, my friends that have gone through this, one of the big signs they needed to leave was they came back from vacation just as stressed and irritable as when they left. They came back from sabbatical just as stressed. No matter how long they took, it wasn't long enough, and it felt like they needed more time because they weren't called there anymore. What you do should fill you up. What you do should energize you and excite you. Yes, it's exhausting. I get that. It's exhausting, but it should fill you. And just the thought of being in the office shouldn't make you angry and irritable. So when the thought of church, you're already angry and irritable and stressed out, that's a sign you may be in the wrong place. And the last one, I would say, if the trust has been completely broken there and you think, I can't trust this situation anymore, that perhaps something illegal's gone on there, or an abusive situation, those do happen in churches. I would say do not stay in an abusive situation for the sake of your family and for your own health. If it's an abusive situation and the trust has been completely broken, it may be time that you went on for a fresh start. Could be God moving you. So I would say before you go, though, talk to your senior leader about your feelings, what you're feeling. Pray. Try a break. Try a sabbatical. Go to your doctor. Eat right. Exercise. Do all the things that you need to make these things go away. I don't want to be 80 years old and think, what if I had done? What if I had tried? So do all those things, but at the end of it all, if you feel God is moving you on and you see these warning signs, then obey what God's telling you to do and look for his next open door. The longer you stay there, the longer you're doing damage to the church you're at, as well as time you should be at your next ministry position. You're missing time with your new ministry position. So definitely pray about it, but you don't deserve to be miserable the rest of your life or to be in an abusive situation. So don't leave a church flippantly, but sometimes God is trying to give you a signal. So I love you guys. I wish you the best in ministry, and I hope this helps, that you're not alone, that a lot of ministers end up in this situation. And subscribe, like, share, and if I can be of any help, please email me, Tricia@peach.im, and hang in there. I'm praying for you, and I'll see you next week on the Peach Buzz. God bless.